And then you have this super high and you don't dwell on it either. And this happened to me this April. I literally just had the best month of my life. Everything was just amazing every single day. I turned 30. I wanted to have a party. I'm not a planner. And this person invited me to her 40th birthday party. And these amazing people fly from all around the world. And we're partying for like 2 weeks in the Caribbean. And we have like a private boat party and
Wow.
like private beach party. And then like the weekend we go somewhere else to like a private villa. And like we have the best DJs. And it's just amazing. And then my phone broke the day before my birthday. You're having like the best time of your life, and the music's amazing, and the scenery is amazing, and everybody's dressed so well, and wanted to make videos. And then my phone's not working. And then I go, this is so perfect, and it's never going to repeat itself. I want to capture it. And then I go, Claire, literally, this has been your life for the past 2 weeks. Every day, it's amazing like this. So don't act out of scarcity. Tomorrow, it's going to be the same or even better because it's been like this for 2 weeks. This is your new normal now. Receive it. Take it, receive it.
Hello and welcome to already the 30th episode of the Awaken Bow podcast. Today is an exciting day, not only because it's the 30th episode, but also I will be sharing some very exciting news at the end of the episode, so do make sure to listen until the end. I'm bringing you a deep dive today between myself and my friend and fellow intuitive life coach, Mark Dallimore. We are talking about the concept of self-love. We discuss how we can cultivate the deep, unconditional self-love, and how that can help us navigate difficult periods of our lives. When the world throws destabilizing curveballs at us, we can turn back to our self-love and self-compassion and find calmness and stability. This episode was recorded in May 2024 when I was going through a magical and a very expansive period of my life. Honestly, it was probably the most happiest and expansive period of my life. So many amazing things were happening, and listening back to it at this time of editing this episode, more than half a year later, I can tell you that I'm honestly a little jealous of that version of me that seemed to have it all and seemed to be so high on life. And you will be able to hear that. It's truly an energetic transmission of abundance, joy, love, and excitement. And I hope you will find it inspiring listening to it. But of course, the conversation, just like life itself, is not just fun and rainbows. I also share about the dark period that had preceded this happy high. And I explain how I navigated these darker times. And I explain how that was actually something that allowed me to later touch these highs as I went through this difficult period with a lot of self-love and a lot of compassion for myself, and how this truly made my transition into the joy that followed pretty effortless. If you're interested how you too can deal with these emotional depths and call in more of these emotional highs, then this episode is definitely right for you. And like I said, I have some very exciting news that I will be sharing at the end, so do listen. Happy listening, and I'll see you on the other side.
We're going to talk about self-love today, how to cultivate self-love, and there's so many different aspects to self-love. And I thought Claire would be a great person to talk about, because I know you've been on your own journey with this. Myself and Claire have been doing these practices for a few years now, and in the similar programs. And I know she's been on a big journey herself when it comes to self-love. And she's done a number of lives with me before from various locations around the world. And now she's in Colombia. She seems to be pretty settled in Colombia now, but who knows? Actually, you're going, aren't you going to Canada soon anyway?
I'm going in less than 2 weeks, yeah.
There you go. Claire's on the move again, doing retreats. So maybe we'll talk about that a bit later for anyone who's in that part of the world and I would like to join her retreats. I'd love to know what your own thoughts are around self-love. What's been your own journey around self-love? I usually ask the question, what does self-love mean to you? A lot of people will talk about what I call self-care. You know, avoiding too much stress, having massages, going to spa days, eating well, which I think is a really important part of self-love, and that is an aspect of self-love. Not many people, when I ask that question, go beyond what I would say is the physical, the mental, and the spiritual, which we can talk about today. For me, there is three aspects of our being, at least, and so there's three aspects of self-love. And this has been really important to me over the last couple of weeks. With this journey, it doesn't matter how much work you've done in terms of your own healing and evolution. life is always going to throw you a curveball now and again. Now and again, doesn't matter if you're a guru meditating on a mountaintop somewhere, or whether you're a master shaman working in the Amazon. Life is going to throw you a curveball now and again, and it certainly threw me a curveball a couple of weeks ago. I won't go into it too much, but basically, I have a job that I do alongside the coaching to support the business, basically, as I grow it. And a couple of weeks ago, out of nowhere, my main client basically said, "We don't want Mark on the account anymore for various reasons." And that hit me like a ton of bricks. It hit me like a ton of bricks, because I'm, put everything into everything I do. And it was a massive shock, and it sent me into a bit of a spiral. But this is why, I thought it was really pertinent to talk about self-love today, because this has been huge for me over the last couple of weeks. First of all, dealing with the shock of the situation, and then all the parts that came up, basically, that were having their say that, I'd done something wrong, that wasn't good enough, that someone else was to blame. And so it's been a real exercise in self-love the last couple of weeks to ensure that I maintain my balance and not spiral off into some dark places. And of course, we all know this happens for us, but in the middle of it, middle of these kind of traumatic situations, it's very easy to lose alignment. And I've had to work very hard in the last couple of weeks to maintain mine. But for what I say, I won't go too much into that now, because I talked about a lot last week. But what I would like to talk about is, first of all, your own journey. First of all, welcome. Thanks for joining again, Claire. What's been your own journey to self-love? And because I know, I have heard you in the past talk about this and your own challenges, but it seems to me, looking at your life now, that you've worked very hard on it, and you've got yourself into a great place when it comes to your own relationship with self. But what would you like to share on self-love, first of all, before I go into my own stuff?
Thank you, Mark. I received that, and I would agree with that. Life's pretty good. And yeah, I did work very hard on it. I don't know. I don't like the sound of that, right? Like it's yeah, I mean, it gets tough. It gets hard. We do call it work.
Yeah.
But it's really just surrendering into whatever comes up. And when you were sort of talking about what, the word or the catchphrase self-love means to people, like usually gets thrown around like, oh, it's not just a bath and, this and that. It's more than that. Like, to me, what comes is, the words are compassion. It's beautiful. I was just reminded of this practice yesterday. Maybe you were too. The mentors that Mark and I have worked with, they have this practice. It sort of goes, you like find a part of yourself which you're very uncomfortable with. It's either very painful, or you think it's shameful, or it's just something you wouldn't show to the world, right? It's like, it's a nasty part of me, or that's something that I don't want anybody to know. And once you are at a point in your journey when you do find a certain amount of safety and comfort with yourself, with other people, you are sort of sitting in presence with another human being who is trained to hold that sort of presence for you. And then once you're in that space and feeling safe, you're invited to share that. And then the other person says, there's love for that too. And so that's sort of like the epitome for me, I think, of self-love. It's like, can you find, because what is love, right? Like, it's interesting. We've talked about this before. We've talked extensively about my experiences with plant medicine, which is an experience I had 6 months ago. And it's been profound, and it showed me so many things. But one of the things it showed me was just sort of had me question what love means. And it had me realize that pretty much everything that we humans think that love is in our cultures, it's not love. Like, it's there's actually a song in Spanish about it. It's called "This is not love, this is obsession." So but usually it's attachment, right? Like, it's
yes.
Usually when we think it's love, it's attachment. So we feel love towards another person, and like, it's not love, it's attachment. Like, you want them to reciprocate, you want you know, so we're just like confusing, but like love is unconditional. It's like if I love you,
Yes, that's exactly what I just wrote down. Yeah, unconditional love. Yeah.
so if I love you as another person, right? If you do something, I'm like, oh well, you know, I still love them, and it doesn't mean that I need to stay in a relationship with you, but that has nothing to do with it. Actually, I feel love, it has nothing to do with whether I'm married to you, whether, you know, I do this, whether you do that. If there's love, and that's it. Like that's a full sentence. That's like a
Mm,
fact of its own, right? And what you do, what you decide to do, if you decide to interact with this person, that's a whole different story. But like, is
mm,
there love, is there not love, right? And so then you can flip it around towards yourself, and it's
yeah.
the same thing. It's like, do I love myself unconditionally, right? Even if, you know, I just woke up and like my face looks super swollen, I'm looking at myself on a
You
camera
look
and it's
great.
like, thank you. I don't feel like I look great. I'm just looking at myself in this camera. I'm like, am I really showing up on camera this way? And you know, it's like, is there love for that too? Yeah, there's love for
Yeah,
that too, right? Like
yeah.
we're doing this. Like it's okay, you know.
Mm,
And so I don't know. I think that's sort of like the main thing that I wanted to share around this. It's yeah, like, can I love not because, like, you know, usually we fall in love with somebody because they're amazing, right? Like, oh my gosh,
mm,
they're so good looking, or they're so smart, or whatever.
yes.
So usually I love because, and then they do something and then I stop loving because, right? But can I
Yeah,
love in spite, or like, can I love nonetheless, right? Like, because that's what
yeah,
love is. It's like there's love.
yeah. And it's like you said, it doesn't mean that you stay in an example of a relationship. You wouldn't necessarily have to stay in the relationship with the person, and you might not sort of accept their behavior, for example. But like you said, you know, it's still love. What really shone through for me there is it's I don't think you can do that for another person if you haven't found that for yourself. That is the key for me. It's like just reminding me of this story that Ramdas said about his guru in India. Basically said, you know, give him like a couple of pieces of advice, you know, very simple as these gurus do. Basically, love everybody and tell the truth. That was his kind of, and he also said, always remember God. But those two, he really sort of drummed home to Ramdas: love everyone, tell the truth. What he said was that he didn't love everyone, and I think you can't bypass. You can't just pretend, okay, yeah, okay, we're all one, and I love everyone. It's not something you can think your way towards self-love. We all know we'd love to be in a position where we just love everybody, but we can't. You can't fake that, or that's kind of bypassing, really. So, exactly, you said the work really is not on. And there are practices. I do a certain practice, a guided meditation, where we kind of we build up the heart chakra and send it out wider and wider and wider. But at the core of it is, can you find love for all aspects of yourself? And for me, this is the kind of the true core of self-love. It's not like I'm going to forcibly shine love on this aspect of myself. It is just like you said, it's just an acceptance of everything and and then once you find out for yourself and your own parts, like I talked about, this week has been very much about that, you know, and there has been moments of anger, and there's been moments of self-doubt and fear and depression. And for me, it's just been sitting with those changing energies, you know, all these parts that come up that are just like, oh, you know, I'm finished as a designer, or I'm not good enough, or, you know, whatever's there. And all this self-doubt, self-sabotage. And for me, it's a practice of just listening to the thoughts, but not believing them, and just sitting with them, like giving them space, holding them, compassion, patience, and not trying to change anything. Not like, oh, condemning those parts. Oh, you shouldn't be here, or, you know, you shouldn't be saying that.
Yeah.
If you are able to just sit with those aspects of yourself, and they will just naturally integrate back into the whole as you do that, without trying to do anything in particular, it's much easier then to do the same for others. Like, if you look at the universe as a mirror of our internal system, we've all got people that trigger us, right? Now, for a lot of people, that's like politicians or various, you know, famous people that are kind of put on a pedestal in society. That if I mention the fact that someone triggers you, it may be, you know, someone like that, or it may be an ex, or it may be someone that's wronged you in some way in the past. but we'll always have somebody that triggers us in a certain way, but they're just reflecting back a part of ourselves that we haven't found compassion for within or acceptance for within. So in that way, that the universe is always reflecting back to us the work we need to do on ourselves. And it's what's been really interesting for me the last couple of weeks. It's all very well doing that when life's good. Like you seem to have found in your life, Claire, like some real harmony and alignment and balance in your life. You know, I look at what you share on social and I see you dancing and I see you, you know, partying with people and whatever it might be. And I'm just like, wow, Claire's really sort of found a groove at this point. But at these times, like previously to the last couple of weeks, it's quite easy to practice self-love in those times and care for yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, and do that kind of work. But we all have, you know, like I said, life throws curveballs now and again. For me, we've got like columns. We've all got each columns in our lives. And see what you think about this, Claire. This is my theory. We've got the column of our health or well-being. We've got the column of our relationships, the column of our work and finances. Probably you could say there's 3 columns to our lives, which are quite foundational to who we are on a human level anyway. Maybe on a spiritual level, you could say none of that matters. But on the human level, if any of those columns gets knocked away or gets threatened in any way, we go into some kind of process. And that's unavoidable. If tomorrow somebody tells you you've got a life-threatening illness, you better believe that the human aspect of yourself will go into some kind of process. That's unavoidable. Whether you kind of try and bypass it by saying, oh, my soul and none of this really matters, that's going to hit you. And it's at these times, or like I said, somebody puts you on redundancy, or your relationship you love ends. You're going to go into a process. The body's going to go into a process. And it's at those times where self-love becomes absolutely crucial. And the practices that you've done up to that point really kick in, and you find out whether they work or not. So it's kind of like, yes, you can do these, have love for yourself, take care for yourself on all those physical, mental, spiritual levels. But when life really hits you in that way, as it will do at some point, we've all got to face, you know, old age and death, if nothing else. Then that's where you find out if you really have built up that foundation of self-love. It's been really interesting for me the last couple of weeks, where I think through the practices I've done, I've been able to maintain that through really, really difficult circumstances when, you know, it's felt like internally that I've been basically in free fall, you know, jumped out of a plane basically. And all of this fear has come up, and yet I've still been able to maintain the self-care, the self-discipline, and, you know, sitting with others, getting support, and sitting through all these parts that come up. Because as you said, doing that on your own, you're asking for trouble, really. I know I say this every week, but don't do this stuff on your own, because when life does hit you, you're going to find out that it's not going to work if you're on your own. You need to sit with stable, grounded templates to reflect that to your system. Because if you just sit on your own and meditate in really tough times, you'll just swim in your own trauma and conditioning. Yes. What does that bring up for you, Claire? Would you agree?
I was just thinking about it when you were talking about, you know, the curveballs and stuff, and I was like, I'd be fine. I was thinking about it. I was like, I mean, I think if I lost source of income or like a life partner or something, I guess it depends, right? But at this point, I'm kind of like, I got me. And then like with
what about the third one? What about the third one? The health one?
Health, yeah. Then I was like, ooh.
Yeah. It's different for everyone, I guess.
It's interesting to be like very honest. I feel like I'm really not that attached to my life, because I feel like at the end I'm gonna find myself on the other side and then do it all over again. I mean, since I was a child, my mother always said that I like survival instincts, which I think partially is true. But yeah, I think like with health, like it would rattle me. I haven't experienced it in a while. Knock knock. But I remember like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with something, and it's like a hormonal thing. And, you know, these things, like, you can't really explain them. You can't really cure them. And then they're like, oh, the best thing is to give you this medicine, which is really meant for medication. and like it's gonna fuck up your digestion. I'm like, my digestion is literally so fucked up already. Like, oh, here's some pills for acid reflux. I'm like, what the fuck?
Which throws something else out, and then you got to take more.
Right? Like, and that was in Taiwan, where they have a lot of alternative medicine, right? Like they have traditional Chinese medicine, and the insurance pays for your Chinese medicine. So I was like, can you give me something less invasive, like something herbal? She's like, oh, no worries, I'll give you something herbal. And then she literally just gave me the same prescription, right? Okay. Medicine for diabetics. And I was like, what?
Right.
Right. And then I sat with it, and all these parts were coming up, and it was like, I'm broken. I have this thing. It's not curable. I'll never get over it. And so then I was sitting with it. It's a story. And then there was like a moment of doomsday. It's like, oh no. And then I started observing all these stories, and it was like, whoa, I'm totally creating this. There's a part of me that totally revels and like, oh my God, I'm going to die at a young age sort of thing, and everybody's going to pity me. And then they're going to be like, oh, like she was so great and she died so young. What a shame. Now we, and it's just like,
story. Yeah.
And you're like, really? Like, this is going on? That's kind of fun. So anyway, then I decided it was not a thing, and then I was going to be fine. And then I did get some Chinese herbs. And then I went for a checkup a year later to see a different doctor in a different country. And they were like, you're totally fine, A. And B, like even looking at the scans from last year when you were diagnosed, I would have never diagnosed you with that thing. And I'm like, okay. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, I guess like even looking at the health, it's just like, oh, like there's stories, right? That this is activating.
It does. And it's exactly what I've been dealing with the last couple of weeks is a series of stories. That the mind is just constantly making up stories, particularly about the future. That's what you got to watch, because the mind loves to create fearful projections about the future. The mind has no idea what's going to happen. And in fact, if you've done enough of this work, then I think it builds a certain level of trust and safety in your system that you can kind of go, okay, this is all happening for me. As we know, we always say that, rather than to me. And it actually, what's going to happen is this will turn out perfectly, and I'll end up in a much better place. When you're in the middle of it, it's kind of harder to see. But I think having done enough of this work now, there's a general feeling in the background, like just trust. This will all work out perfectly, even though you feel like you've jumped out of a plane at the moment. The parachute will open and you'll kind of float to a new version of your life. But that was interesting what you said, actually, about the pillars of life. And for me, maybe it's because I'm at a different place in my life. It's,
I think so.
Being married and having a child, it's like, that is a big pillar for me. That's a huge pillar. And so as a result, having a house and a mortgage. So my job and my finances are like a big pillar.
Sure.
But what I found interesting, and obviously health is, I think for everybody, if we got told tomorrow that, for example, we've got an illness and we've got 6 months to live, then I don't know how many people would just be like, okay, well, I'm just going to live my life to the fullest. Maybe you do that. And I know you've got a different perspective and you live a kind of quite a unique life, because I see that you're kind of just living pretty free and loose and just kind of like following your heart, which is fantastic. I think for most of us, any of those before you get hit, you're going to go into some kind of process. But yeah, the reason why we're here in human form is to evolve. And whilst the times in our lives are great when everything's going well, I think life is a mixture of, it's like, I've heard it described as Earth School. It's like a soul chooses to incarnate in human form to learn a series of lessons to help it evolve. Basically, that kind of feels right to me why we're here. So exactly that. You are going to face certain challenges that are designed to help you evolve. And we can't say when they're going to come, but they are going to come because evolution happens through contrast, right? If we came here and everything was easygoing and like a Disney movie and well, even a Disney movie, this dark things happen. But if we never experienced any challenges in life, then I certainly look back on my life and that's the time where I've grown most, But it is really important to remember that it's easy to look back and go, well, I'm so grateful for that experience, that really dark experience, because on the other side of it, I can see how much I've evolved and grown. Harder to see when you're in the middle of it. And like I say, you feel like you're falling out of a plane and you don't know when you're going to hit the bottom or if you're going to hit the bottom. So those are the times, again, whereby the work that you've done, you find out if the work works. And I know from my own journey, I tried lots of different things on my journey because I my own mental health issues in the past. Tried breathing practices, I tried tapping, I tried counseling, I tried Buddhist meditation, meditating alone, and none of that held up in the difficult moments. What I know, and this is reiterated the last couple of weeks, I know now what works, because I've been into the dark numerous times. This time I went in again, and just sit, very simple. For me, spirituality doesn't have to be this complex thing. I know there's a whole supermarket of different things out there, the spiritual path, but simply feeling through your present moment experience in the body with support. That's it. And if you're working in community, like I believe we should all really be, because that's when a human being is at his happiest and healthiest, and you've got people that will sit with you, like myself and Claire, at difficult moments, that gives you so much confidence in life, because as I said before, you cannot find ground and safety if you're not feeling it inside. You need a template. Like now, if I'm spiraling down into the darkness, if I sit on my own, I'm just going to sit in that. And I have done that the last couple of weeks at moments. But when I sit with someone like Claire, who's obviously at this point grounded and stable and experiencing a lot of well-being in her life, my system will I don't have to do anything. My system will just naturally template clears. And in the space of about 10 or 15 minutes, I'm feeling that in my own system. And if you just keep doing it and doing it and doing it, eventually a process that could last weeks or months, I've experienced is kind of pretty much done in the space of a couple of weeks. So it's a long-winded way of saying this works. Anyway, for me, as I've found, and I guess you would say the same, Claire.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I think it's really the patience. And I have to say, and as we're having this conversation, there's thoughts that come up in my mind, like, wait, are you trying to suggest that where I'm at is not going to last forever? Like,
We can hope.
I've been feeling really, really good for the past 2 months. Everything's just been amazing on every front.
Yeah.
Like, my life
You're
is
aligned.
Amazing, right? Everything, like I wake up and I have a thought, I want this, and then I wake up and I see this person outside of my window and I'm like, oh, I wanted this thing and now it's here and it's free, and it's like, really, like, what, like, and things are just coming to me, and it's really a reflection I'm seeing at my life and the people in my life and what's being offered to me and the love that's offered to me and the care that's offered to me and the connection and all that, the abundance. And there's like a thought that wants to, it's not a pattern that shows up, but there's like a realization, oh, how come this thought or this pattern isn't here? But it's not there. But I've run it my whole life. So it's like, where is it? And so there's like this, it's too much. How do I deserve this? It's not a thought I actually have, but I'm receiving so much that it is really at the brim. Like, it's really at the edge of like, wow, it's a little hard to receive because it's so much. And there wants to be that thought of, I don't deserve this. But then I'm like, no, I do. Like, I receive it. But it's like really hitting that spot of, we're stretching your capacity to receive. And so I'm just observing and I'm like, a few months back, if I was receiving these things and this love and all that, I would probably not even gotten myself to a situation where I would be receiving all that love. Or if I was, I would probably self-sabotage it, or I would push it away, or I would really struggle to receive it. And truth of the matter is, before like these 2 months ago, when things started really getting super great, like life was, I mean, I don't want to say life was hard, but like I was sitting with a lot of shit. Like it was a lot, but I had, even at that point, I had gotten to a point where I was, even if it was really hard, I would be like sitting at home and crying for 3 hours, creating a splitting headache from all like and I would literally be sitting there and crying my eyes out like I had never done before. And literally, as I was in the process, and it was so even like tough on the body, right? And you sort of don't know what to do with yourself because you're just in a process and you can't stop. And I'm literally like crying my eyes out and thinking, this is the best thing that ever happened.
Wow.
So it's like, I really like had to a point of like just pure acceptance. And it's like, even as like, sometimes you do get frustrated when it goes on forever and ever. And you're like, fuck, like I'm tired of like exhausted and or like depressive or like confused or feel like I'm going crazy because all these things are but still, like, those are moments, but then like the overall was like, I know this is happening for me, and I can see the ingenuity of it. And for me, it was especially after the ayahuasca. I had like a week period when I was genuinely, I was like, I am going insane. Like, I was like, I can't take this anymore. I am going insane, right? And so you're just like, I'm like, I can't, I don't want to, like, it's too much. I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know who to talk to. I feel like I'm gonna end up in an asylum. But like, those are moments, and then like the arching, it's like, oh, like I can see how this is stirring all these thoughts, and how I feel insane because my entire worldview is being challenged. Like, for example, this thing with love, that was one of the realizations. It's like, oh, like the worldview that I have because the society has it, and these are certain things that the whole society believes should be that way. Like, it actually doesn't make sense from like a human soul perspective, right? It doesn't make sense. And so you sort of just like, if everybody thinks that, and now I start believing something else, but the whole world acts this way, and now I know myself to be someone who is authentic to what they believe. So like, what do I do now? Like, do I start acting in a different way when 99% of people act in that way? And then like, so it's like all these thoughts, but I'm like, I can see why I'm being so activated, you could say triggered, because it's working on me in a certain way, and it's challenging all of these thoughts, which are perhaps not serving me anymore. So it was very difficult, but I could see the benefits of it at the same time. But it's because I was like, I just had so much patience, honestly. Like, I was just like, just gonna sit with it, and then I'm gonna sit with it, and I'm gonna sit with it. And honestly, it's been months that I've just been literally like lying on my yoga mat on the floor and just meditating for hours every single day. And like, go to the depths of the depths. And I shared a lot about this on social media as well in those like months prior, in like January, February. So like, 4 months ago, it was really tough on me. But I would generally wake up one morning and just feel like depressed or like lonely or like pointless. And I would just be like, okay, this is where it's at. And it's like early in the morning, and you don't want to start your day that way, right?
Yeah.
But I would just be like, this is what I'm feeling. And so I would just like lie in bed for 3 hours and feel like absolutely fucking horrible, right? And just like, yeah, just like depressed, and like everything's pointless, and like I feel alone. And I would just dive into it fully, like as uncomfortable as it was.
Yeah.
Because, like, what else am I gonna do? Like, am I gonna try to sit in front of my computer and like try to like type some happy shit and do some work? Like, how's that, right? And so I would just be in bed for 3 hours, and at some point I feel kind of complete. I had meditation with somebody from our support.
You got support. That's the key. Yeah.
Right. And then I was sort of feeling like I was coming to completion. I was like, okay, it's time for me to have a shower and start my. So I'd go have a shower, come out of the shower. I'm like, now I'm gonna, I don't know, put some makeup on, make myself feel a little bit better, and then go to a cafe to change scenery and try to do something. And then I go, and then I, go on with my day. And even though my day started like, I don't know, at noon or whatever, but then I'm like sitting at home late at night, and then I, went there, here and there, and then I ended up going dancing, and then I start talking to all these people, and then I come home and I'm like, oh my God, best day of my life. And I'm like, wait, this was the same
start
day
that way.
in bed for 3 hours, feeling horrible, right? Like, worst morning of my life. And I'm like, best day of my life. Because I allowed myself to go into that experience fully, like really dive really deep into it, right? So you like touch the bottom, you like touch the core of it, the depth of it, and it's really intense. But I feel like once you start really reaching the depth of the scale, it subsequently allows you to really reach the top of the scale.
Yes.
And you build that emotional resilience and that emotional fluidity. And you can literally go through these experiences within one day. You can feel like you've had the worst morning and you've had the best evening of your life, because you don't get stuck in it. You don't have a story. You're like, this feels pretty horrible right now, but I'm just going to be with it because it's just another experience. And then you have this like super high, and you don't dwell on it either. And this happened to me this April. I literally just had the best month of my life. Everything was just amazing every single day. I turned 30. I was going to have, like, I wanted to have a party, but like, I'm not a planner and I haven't lived here for a long time. I was like, maybe I should do it as a destination thing. Then I was like, who's going to come here? Because my friends don't travel that much as I do. Like, I'd come to a party to the other side of the world, but most people I do don't. I know don't. So then like this person invited me to her 40th birthday party, and it was like this person is a planner and they have friends all around the world, so like these amazing people fly from all around the world, and we're partying for like 2 weeks in the Caribbean, and we have like a private boat party and
Wow.
like private beach party, and then like the weekend we go somewhere else to like a private villa, and like we have the best DJs, and it's just like everything's just
Wow.
made like amazing, right? Just unbelievably amazing. And then my phone broke the day before my birthday. You're having like the best time of your life, and the music's amazing, and the scenery is amazing, and everybody's dressed so well, and wanted to make videos. And then my phone's not working. I can't take pictures. This is so perfect, and it's never going to repeat itself. Like, I want to capture it. Like, oh my God, like, I need to capture this. It's so unique and so amazing. And then I go, Claire, literally, this has been your life for the past 2 weeks. Like, every day it's like this. It's amazing like this. So don't act out of scarcity. Like, just tomorrow is another day, and tomorrow it's going to be the same or even better because it's been like this for 2 weeks. Like, this is your new normal now. Receive it, like genuinely take it, receive it. And then I'm like, and there's this like, I want to take a video for my social media or whatever, right? But I was like, okay, new normal, not being attached, basically, right? Like, be cool with it, like, it's like, you reach the low and you like dwell in it usually, and you reach the high and you like, either you can't even receive it because it's too much, because you just generally, you haven't built a container, or resilience. Like, it's still like, it's a huge amount of energy. If it's like the low or the high, it's a huge amount of energy that hits you, that you either can or cannot be with, right? Because you've built or haven't built capacity to be with that level of energy. And so you like either can't even hold it, or you want to dwell on it. You want to stay in it. Like, in both, like the negative, we just
Attachment.
we dwell in it. It's like, oh, woe is me. We get attached to these stories, and on some level they serve us. I'm a little victim, but you don't understand. I need to share my story with you. Like, does it matter? Like, yeah, if it matters for you, but like, do you really want to dwell in it and stay in it? Like, does that help you? Does that support you? So the point that I've been trying to make with my long share is that, like, it has not been easy, but like, I had really allowed myself to really, really, really dive deep into the crazy and the sad and the angry and the frustrated and the ashamed and whatever it was. And eventually, I would say I have broken through. And like, once you have, honestly, like, so I had quit my job. I quit my job more than a year ago, and I have not been working since then. And I've just literally just been like meditating and healing, and eventually it's beautiful because it's been going on for so long that at the beginning you have all these stories of like, where's the money going to come from, da 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 da. And you do it for a while, and then you're like, okay, this is working out, right? And then you do it a little bit longer, and you sort of forget that like it's something weird you shouldn't be doing, or like, because if it's been working out, so like it's going to keep on working out, like you've been doing it and it's fine. So you sort of forget. I mean, that happened to me. It's like, it's fine, like it's still working out, like there's still money in my account, like I have nothing about it, right? Like, I just, like, I'm living and it's cool. And so you sort of like relax about it, and like that pressure, and the same with the healing, because like it was like, oh, I'm just going, like, I want to start my own business, but right now I'm like not healed enough, or like I'm not comfortable, like I don't feel this expansive energy. Like, I want to build something from that expansive energy, the energy of like genuinely want to pour my love and passion into this, and not like, oh my God, I need money and I should be doing something because everybody's asking me what I'm doing, so that's why I'm going to start building things. Like, I do not want to build anything from that energy.
No,
I don't want to spread it.
absolutely right.
Yeah. So like, even with that, I just sort of relaxed about like, now I'm just healing and I'm healing and I'm healing. And sometimes you're like, damn, like, is this ever going to stop? Like, am I never gonna, like, am I going to just work for 3 years and run out of money and like never do anything with my life because I'm so traumatized? Like, we all are, pretty much, right? If you start digging deep into everything there is for you. But honestly, like, at some point I just relaxed about it. It's like, this is the process, and like, I don't know how long it's going to take. And so then you lose that attachment to it. It's like, well, it's just another day of feeling like shit. And I know that eventually, like, I can see every time I dive deep into this, it processes or lessens. And then, there's another thing, but I can see it's another thing. So I can see I'm making progress, right? So you sort of get unattached. And once you get unattached, that's why you start breaking through. And that's why I currently am at this place where it's just like invitations, opportunities, abundance, like people giving me shit, offering me shit, inviting me stuff, like meeting people, meeting more amazing people, like, friendships, and just love and just connection and job opportunities and like just things coming to me and like just these beautiful moments and like little like rainbows and sunsets and just like spectacular things. And I'm
By
like,
sitting with what is, just by sitting with your present moment felt experience.
I want to add one last thing. When this good period started, when I like started getting these invitations and I like knew I was gonna meet these people, like I literally met the man who got me started on my journey of spiritual awakening 4 years ago. It's kind of fun. It was like, whoa, full circle. I follow these people on social media for 4 years and now I'm hanging out with them and babysitting their child and whatnot and hanging out with them for free in a 5-star retreat resort up on a hill, like, you know, chilling in an infinity pool and a jacuzzi. Anyway, good stuff. But when I started seeing these things that they were coming and I knew they were coming, that was in March still, second half of March. It was like first half of March, I was in some heavy stuff, but I was like coming to the other side. And then just like that, everything started aligning. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to meet these people, da, da, da. And then I meet these people and then I have these invitations and this. And like, I knew, I was like, wow, like April is going to be wild. And so what I did, I was like hanging out with people a lot, spending a lot of time outside, just enjoying myself. But when I wasn't, for a period of maybe 2-3 weeks, I was literally here on my yoga mat. And it wasn't difficulty, but it was like, I need to expand. I need to ground and center because I was like, this is a lot. Like a lot of energy is going to be in my system in a good way, like the highs. But that as well, like I said, we need to be ready for that and be able to take it. So I was literally just sitting here, super straight spine, and I'm like, alignment, I'm grounded, energy's flowing, and visualizing myself expanding. And this is my practice. And I'm like, expanding. I'm expanding. I'm expanding. Like I am, you know, expanding into being someone who receives these kind of opportunities. I am expanding into someone who feels comfortable being around these like millionaires, billionaires, or like whatever, like these like people with like, you know, thousands and thousands of followers on social media and like, you know, like people of influence and people who are healed and like 2 decades older than me and you know, like I'm worthy. I can take this and I can take this much goodness. I feel almost like I can, but I know I can, and there's more to come. And so literally, like that's what I did every single day. Like I would just sit here for hours and be like visualizing my central channel, like my body just like expand. First I would root, right? Because we need that ground, we need that centered, you know, and then I would expand, like expand. I can't take it. I can't. I receive. And that was my practice for like 2-3 weeks. And now I don't do that anymore. I don't have to. Like I don't meditate because I'm just like in so much like love and bliss and flow and friends and events and all that every single day. So like I don't feel like I need that, you know, but yeah, just like it's been work. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing how you go in. It's almost like channeling some kind of energy when you share like that. And I can just feel that the kind of level of abundance that you're kind of radiating at the moment. People listen to this might, you know, whenever somebody shares like that, whenever I ask people like, what would you do with your life if money was no object? And it's usually something like that. It's usually like, or I would travel the world, or I would create a healing center or a retreat center, or I would help the certain group of people, or, you know, whatever it is. And we can all create that kind of life, but there's always, I'm interested to know, people watching live on now on the or on the replay later, like what is your, I wonder what came up for you when you were listening to that. Oh, there's usually a thought like, oh, it's okay for her because blah 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 blah. There's some kind of story as to why we couldn't live that kind of life. And doesn't, maybe you don't want to live that kind of life, but I think what Claire's touching on there is very simple practice of just witnessing your experience, not attaching to anything. Like you said, some days you wake up and you are feeling a bit depressed. Certainly I have over the last couple of weeks. Some days you wake up and you feel aligned and energized and good to go. But it's almost like you're detaching from your judgment of the experience. Like, oh, depression, or something's wrong here. Or, wow, I feel aligned. I want this to stay forever. I want to be like this forever. And there's something wrong if I wake up and I'm unhappy one day. It's a very simple practice of just learning to be with what is, witnessing your experience, feeling for it, and getting support. Like support for me, especially at those really tough times, is essential. And for me, when we do that, that for me is aligning with our soul. So the soul for me is like, what is the soul? It's like loving awareness, as Ram Dass calls it. It's basically just this witness of our experience, acceptance, no judgment, not pulling something towards us or pushing something away. And so when you're doing that on a regular basis, I think your life basically aligns with your higher self, or you could say your soul. And so it will, in Claire's case, it's becoming more of this kind of abundant life and traveling and partying, because that's aligned for her right now. But it could be that, where I am in my life, a bit older, that's not what alignment is for me at this time. Probably would have been when I was in my late 20s or 30, but for me, alignment now is more about a kind of family life, still working on my healing and evolution, and building my business, working with my clients. So if you are doing those kind of practices where you literally are learning to be with what is, expanding your energetic container. I love the way you said about that, like learning to be with the lows allows you to be with the highs, really. And I think that's what ayahuasca is great at. On my own journey, I was in Costa Rica in January, and the medicine will take you into the depth of the darkness inside you. But the whole point of that is that you kind of expand your energetic container. So if you're able to be with a 1, you can then experience a 10. It just expands your energetic container, makes you a bigger, more powerful being, essentially. And yeah, interesting that my experience in Costa Rica, I came back and it was an amazing experience out there. Very, very dark and also very, very empowering. But I came back and I was like, nothing's really changed in my life. I'm kind of carrying on with my work, with my job. Relationships are great. Still experiencing quite a high level of abundance, and nothing's really changed in my life. Maybe the experience wasn't as powerful as I thought. And then here I am, kind of like 3 months after that, and this big area of my life has just completely collapsed. And for me, it's like, going back to plant medicine a little bit more, it's like when we have those big experiences, then anything that's kind of out of alignment in life is going to fall away. Like that for me is what this work is all about. It's all about aligning us with the higher self. So if something is out of alignment, there could be in your relationships, it could be money that you have in your account that was earned in a certain way. It could be your job. It could be health, whatever it is. If something's out of alignment, it's going to come to the fore and then be removed from your life as you do this work. And that's what I was going to say, is that for me, it's not just about doing plant medicine experiences. For me, what that does is it does raise your vibration, but then that's not necessarily a good thing, because experiences just come one after the other. Experience. And it's very easy to kind of lose your ground if you're constantly doing these kind of big energetic experiences like plant medicine. What I found is that those experiences are great, but you also need to balance it out with grounding work in between, like the work that we do, holding space with others, meditating, finding your ground so you can integrate those experiences as you go. So that has for me been the key this year, having those big experiences and then just taking the time out to ground. And, that's coming back for a first full circle. That is what we talked about. Self-love is essentially just then acceptance of all aspects of ourselves, even the parts that are depressed, even the parts that are terrified, even the parts, like you said, Claire, that are just like feel like they're going mad, and not getting pulled off into the story or into the part, just learning to be with that part, showing it acceptance, being patient with it, and integrating it back into the whole. And that goes for the low parts, the low vibrational parts, and the high vibrational parts. Sitting with that real excitement or that belief that everything in my life now is perfect, and I'm amazing, and whatever it might be. Just sitting with that part as well, and just constantly finding your balance, so that we're not going through life from peak to trough to peak to trough, peak to trough. As I find as I do this work, then life generally becomes, those peaks and troughs become shallower. So it's not like the complete devastation or destruction, and then life is wonderful and amazing, and then like a huge drop again. It's like those things can happen, but if you're doing this kind of work, then you're able to maintain your balance in between those kind of life experiences. But yeah, Thank you, Claire, for sharing today. Was there anything else you wanted to say on that subject of self-love?
What you were sharing about, the first thing, which ties back really to this work that we do, and the work that you do mainly. The first thing was about, you were sharing it, sometimes you do wake up feeling depressive and there's like a story about it, trying to make it wrong, or like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling that way. Like what came through was, it's hard not to do that because, and especially the culture, for example, where you live in, right? In Britain, you don't really talk about emotions, right? Like we talk about the weather because it's like, oh, like it's raining. Like, it's going to get better. And the other person's like, is it? And you sort of know how they're feeling on the inside, right? Like it's not, it's going to be cloudy. In most cultures, we're definitely not encouraged to, somebody's like, how are you? It's like, oh, I'm feeling depressed right now, right? Like, we don't really do that, right? Like
everyone says fine, I'm fine, right? Which is like, what is that? I remember our mentors talking about that. Fine is feelings inside need expressing. Is that kind of break down that? Yeah, and everyone says, like you said, in England, probably in other parts of the world as well. It's like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
We're never, very rarely are we in the middle fine. So we're usually somewhere, the other side of fine. But it's because the other person can't necessarily hold. If you say to them, oh yeah, I'm feeling pretty depressed today, the other person would be like, it would kind of short circuit them because they don't know how to accept and be with that. Yeah,
because they can't hold it for themselves, so they can't hold it for you. But so what I was going to say is, like, it's really hard to sort of just be okay with that and not have that story, because everything we've seen our whole lives is like, that's not okay, right? So how do you cultivate that within yourself? You start, like, ideally you have that self-love, so you're able to give that to yourself and not judge yourself, which is exactly what we've been talking about. And we talked about it for quite a bit at the beginning as a definition of self-love. But if you are surrounded by people who can't hold that and do judge that and do have labels and stories about that, then it would be very helpful, again, to find a community, find somebody like Mark to sit with, who is who does not dwell on these labels. So like, firstly, like, yeah, they're labels. And because we have all this stigma and like societal, stories attached to things and judgments, we don't feel okay waking up and feeling depressed. We think something is wrong with us and it's not okay. And we go into a whole story about our entire lives and our entire future, how we're going to get stuck in it, right? So it's like, is that a label? And if that helps you, like, okay, like if you need to name it, do name it, but don't get attached to it. Like, this is how I'm feeling this very moment. And like, you could have the same experience that I had. Like, I'm going to feel this depth of this low emotion for 3 hours. And then after that, I'm going to go and have the best day of my life. Don't get stuck in these things. But yeah, if you can't do that, like, find a community where people are going to see you where you're at, and they're not going to judge it. They're not going to give it stories. They're not going to have a huge reaction to it. They're not going to be like those people that you tell them, I'm feeling depressive, when they ask you how you're doing. They don't expect it, and then they can't hold it, and then they freak out, and then you start feeling that, right? So that's the first thing. Find community or surround yourself with people, even if, like, for now it's just like listening to a podcast and people you can't really interact with. Find somebody who can help you normalize these states and like these emotions without labeling these stories. And the second thing I wanted to react to or respond to, you were talking about the ayahuasca, how there's a certain value of it taking you through like these experiences of extreme lows and helping you find a way of being with this. And once you learn how to be with the depths, then you can be with the highs. So for me, actually, the experience was the opposite. Yeah, I did have some difficult, like very difficult experiences on the ayahuasca, but I wouldn't say that was like the toughest things I've ever experienced. Definitely not. I'm saying this because not everybody can or wants to have these kind of experiences, right? With medicine, it's a very intense experience. It can be a very expensive experience. It's not for everyone, for sure. I always say I would not recommend it to anyone. What I want to say is, I've been doing the work that, Mark and I are doing, that Mark is doing with his clients, the meditations that he's guiding every week. I've been doing that work for 4 years now, more. And that experience has primed me for the ayahuasca experiences that I had. But I want to say, what happened for me is probably one of the strongest experiences I had. Was I was literally shaking in like ecstatic, orgasmic pleasure and bliss for like 4 hours a day. And I realized I realized what the medicine did. It was like, you had done so much work. Like, you've been so much in the depths. You have it's so much resiliency when it comes like sitting with what is, with like fear and shame and anger or whatever, like the negative things. I had done that so much, and I found that ground and that stability sitting with these lows, and like being able to hold that to that amount previously without ever having tried any medicine, just sitting in meditation and learning the practices. And so that after that, the medicine was like, you know how to do that, but like, let me show you the other side. So I just want to say, like, you don't need the medicine. Like, I, the medicine for me has been great and it's opened so much, but like, you don't need the medicine. That's it.
There you go. Amazing. Yeah, I always say to people, trust your own calling, and you're absolutely right. It's not for everybody. For me, it's like I always say it's like the steepest path, really, in terms of healing and spiritual evolution. And if you get called to it, great, because you really can heal and evolve quite quickly. But if you're not, and you do it because you think you should, or somebody's asking you, you should do it, then, and it's not right for you, then it can actually, I've seen people do more harm than good for people. So you've really got to trust your own calling there. But what I love about this work that we always talk about, I talk about every week, is like, this is open to anybody. There's nobody that can't do this work. Sitting with your internal experience, feeling through it in your body, opening up to support. And it may be, slower in terms of healing and evolution, but it will happen. Healing happens when we bring mind and body to rest, and we open up to support, and we're dedicating our practice, work in community, and you will heal and evolve yourself. And it just, it's a question of just being patient and trusting the body to do that for you. But that's what I wanted to say about that, is that this work is open to anybody, and everyone I know has benefited from it. And there's no limit to it either. There's not a blind point where you go, okay, the work has kind of run its course now. There'd always be more layers. There'd always be more healing. There'd always be more evolution. And so this work just kind of, I take with me. I do it every day, sitting with others. And whether life is fantastic, whether life is neutral, whether life is really, really tough, I do the practices every day. And knowing that you can be with whatever life presents is real confidence. Whatever life throws my way, I'm able to be with it. I've got support, and that just gives me a huge amount of confidence in life. And you can move through the experiences far, far faster than if you're on your own. I think if you sit on your own and you go through something difficult, then you could wallow in it for a very, very long time. Get support, open up to support, and sit with grounded, supportive templates, people that know how to hold their own fear, their own shame, their own anger, their own depression, whatever it is. And this is what I wanted to say, is that sometimes you do that, you're able to do that for others when they're in this kind of difficult place. Sometimes they do it for you. So it's wonderful, kind of like, that's what community is all about. And I always say, human beings are built to work in groups or communities, tribes, and that's what we need to get back to, really. Start joining up, coming together again. Oh, that's a lot. Thank you, Claire. Wonderful share as always. I guess you'll be, what are you doing today? You got an amazing day ahead of yourself? Are you partying today, or are you dancing, or just going with the flow?
I always have an amazing day ahead. I want to do some work today. I have not worked for like the past month. It's just been so good. I want to finish a podcast episode and then maybe get another one going, and practice some dancing and singing. I haven't been doing my homework. I've been taking a lot of dancing, singing classes. It's been amazing. I have a singing class and a dancing class lined up today, so it should be fun.
Wonderful. And did you want to mention these retreats that you're holding next month?
Sure. Thank you for that space. So I'm traveling to Canada within less than 2 weeks. And funny story, it's actually, I met somebody on my plant medicine journey in October. And we were just talking one day, and we just talk about life. And out of the blue, he's like, would you come over here to Canada and host retreats for women? Like, out of nowhere. And I'm like, sure, right? That was in November. And then it was like, okay, when should we do it? And, now it's happening. So I will be doing a series of weekend retreats for women which focus a lot on the work that we do. That's like a massive basis of it. But then, there's a little bit more. There's a lot of embodiment. There are practices which target specifically the feminine, which is something I could talk about forever and ever.
Sure.
I would say the work that we do, it's very much focused on feeling the sensations in the body. So it already integrates a lot of the feminine, because the feminine is the body, the like the emotions, the fluidity of things, form. But it's still quite masculine. I would say a vast majority of spirituality or religion that we know is very masculine. Masculine is like up above, like from the heart up, higher chakras, sitting in stillness and emptiness, uniting with God up above. That's very masculine. The feminine is the opposite. It's from the from the heart chakra down. It's all about like the body, the earth, the tangible, the masculine is the emptiness, and the feminine is like, it's the all and everything.
Yeah.
It's the fullness, right? It's like the masculine is the atmosphere that is empty but can hold all of the weather patterns, and the feminine is all of the weather patterns. So like, it's like literally like our hormones change every single hour of every day. Like, we're emotional. It's like just like the weather, like it's a storm and then it's sunny and it's like, right? So it's the fullness, and so it can be different, because like for the masculine, sitting in stillness and emptiness is the perfect meditation. But that's what we think meditation is, and it's most of meditation, but it's very masculine in nature. For the feminine, it can be very difficult to sit still, because it's like there's always something changing. It's like the weather patterns, right? It's like a storm is coming. And so for the feminine, and that's not necessarily just women, that's like, the feminine essence, and men can have more feminine essence and women can have more masculine essence. But like yoga, running, gardening, baking, anything can be a perfect meditation. And so that's why, for example, I love the singing and the dancing and yoga, because it's a form of active meditation, and like you keep energy flowing. And like dance, for example, is so beautiful to release emotions. And so yeah, I mean, sitting in stillness has a lot of value, and it's a lot of the work that we do, but then it's also incorporating more of the feminine, and going a little bit deeper into the body and the form and the flow and feminine energy, because we do live in a patriarchal society, and I feel like there's a lot of scope for bringing the feminine through more and more, and we're doing it, but there's always room for more, right? Like,
of course.
Yeah, so it's a lot of embodiment work as well, like feeling the body and connecting with our feminine essence and the feminine radiance. Because the feminine, I love this comparison. You go to like a wedding party or whatever, and you have a lot of people dancing, and you would have, if you have to put it into like stereotype, you would have like the feminine is like the dancing, enjoying and like being watched. And like if it's a healed feminine, it loves to be watched. Like you look at a beautiful flower, the flower doesn't really do much, but it opens up and it's radiating its beauty. The insects come and people look at it and admire it. It's like very, very feminine at its essence, but when it's healed, right? Because then we have trauma and we don't like to be looked at because it's not safe. And, a lot of things go on. But then the masculine is like sitting and watching and just like, and taking it in, like taking in the feminine radiance, right? And again, if it's healed, if they can take it, right? Then there's a lot of trauma and a lot of jealousy also from other women, because we don't allow ourselves to go into our radiance, because then we're going to be too much and other women are going to be jealous and we're going to be too sexual, or like we're going to be sexualized because we're too attractive or whatever. And there's all these things going on. If we heal that, like there's these different essences, and the feminine wants to radiate, but it's like we don't allow ourselves because it's not safe, and we're going to attract too much attention. So it's like, can you actually allow a little bit more, and then a little bit more, because it's your life force and it's your creativity, and it's going to help you attract all the good things in life, and the abundance and the love and the connection and the opportunities that you want. It's scary. It's really scary, right? Like it's actually scary to put yourself out there and be radiant and attract things, because good things come, but we're afraid the bad things are going to come as well. But if you can allow yourself to do that, you're going to find more of yourself and more of your vital force and energy and creativity and passion and lust for life and enjoyment, and the abundance is going to start flowing, and you're going to start feeling more comfortable in your body. So it's the feminine, but it works for women and men. So I hope
of course.
it's a valuable share for everybody listening. Yeah.
Beautiful work. Thank you, Claire.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Mark.
All right, my friends, this is it for my conversation with Mark. But it is just the beginning when it comes to my passion for healing, cultivating self love, and the feminine. When I said I could talk about the feminine for hours and hours, I meant it, and I intend to do just that. I'm extremely excited to announce that I'm opening my very first transformative group container for women, which is designed to help them learn the skills and get the support necessary to embody their inherent radiance and stabilize joy as their baseline while feeling more stable, more safe in the world, more calm and confident than ever before. This signature program combines transformational coaching, deep emotional healing, nervous system repair, and energy work. It is a blend between science based wisdom about the nervous system and female biology and subtle energetic practices which are taught in mystery schools or practiced in shamanic circles. I'm extremely excited to bring this work to women worldwide because I feel it is desperately needed. I dream of a world where women are empowered and the leaders of their lives, as well as of the changes that they want to see in the world at large. I envision a world where women stand up to the outdated patriarchal social structures with confidence, but from a place of love and inclusion, rather than the entitled rage and reactivity that is characteristic of the feminist movement. I envision a world where women and men fall in love again and create a reality where we support, nourish, and admire each other for our differences. I know this is possible if we heal the hidden rage and fear in most women's systems, and thus allow for more love to flow through. And if we empower women by waking them up to the immensity of the innate feminine power that they carry within. I'm ready. I feel the world is ready. If you're ready, reach out to me and let's go. Thank you for listening.